Hello and welcome to Lesson 11, page 96. This is a song titled Ring Those Bells in our Level 1 book. And today we're going to continue to use our brand new 5-finger pattern as we review the notes C, D, E, F, and G on the treble clef. And remember students, if this is our treble clef, and if it's treble clef, that means we need to use our right hand. And because we have 5 notes, that means we're going to be using all 5 fingers in this song. So let's first find our notes on the piano and then we'll go line by line. So the first note we need is C, and we're going to be using our thumb to play C. Now there's another video attached to this course that goes over the specifics of this hand position, but just for a little bit of review, remember we're going to use the side of our thumb to play C. And then we're just going to place one finger next to C until we run out of fingers, okay, on all of the white keys here. Remember, C is our first white key under the group of 2 black keys. So I have C, D, E, F, and G. And that is why we call it a 5-finger pattern, because we're using all 5 fingers. Another quick tip about our hand position, remember to have strong fingers and aim to play with those fingertips when we're on the piano. When we play the key, our fingers are going to want to collapse against the key like this, but we want to make sure we have nice straight fingers like this that don't collapse down. It takes a little bit of practice. A way you can practice that before we even start the song is maybe you could say the notes out loud and play 3 to 5 notes on one key. So I might go D, 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 D. And you can keep doing that with all of your fingers to practice playing each finger on the piano. Because when you get up here to your ring finger and your pinky, or what we also call finger 4 and finger 5, it can get really tricky to play those keys. So you want to get in some practice like this before we hop in to the song. Okay, now that we've got our notes, let's review a couple more of our symbols in this song, and then we'll go into our line-by-line review. So up first, we have our pedal mark. Remember, the pedal mark means to hold down the damper or sustain pedal on our pianos. So I'll draw you just a quick little picture here. If you have a full acoustic piano at home, you might have 3 pedals. If you just have a keyboard at home, maybe you don't have a pedal, that's okay. You can pretend with your right foot, but you might just have 1 pedal. But if you do have 3 pedals, you're going to use the far right pedal to hold down. Remember, they call that the damper pedal because when you press it, it releases the damper on the piano and lets those strings just ring out. But we also call it the sustain pedal as well because it sustains our notes. Just to give you an example, if I press and hold a C with the pedal down and take my hand away, the sound is still there until I release that pedal. So remember, in the first measure, we're going to press and hold down the pedal, and we're not going to release it until the cymbal goes back up right here. Okay, so we press down and go back up. So we have a pedal mark in this song. So we also have a brand new symbol in this called DC al fine. And it's right down here. And that stands for da capo al fine. And that means it's Italian and it translates to from the beginning to the end. So let's talk about how DC al fine works. When we get to the end of our song, so we would usually stop playing right here. But because there's this DC al fine symbol, remember it means from the beginning to the end, we go back to the beginning of our song, which is right up here in the first measure. And we're going to play until we see the word fine, which means end. See if you can find it before I circle it. Where is fine? Okay, 3, 2, 1, here I go. And here it is, right at the end of measure 4. See how it says the end, or fine just means end. So remember, for our DC al fine, we are going to play through the entire song until we get to measure 12. And after measure 12, we're not done yet. We're going to go back to the beginning and keep playing until we stop in measure 4 after this half note. So lots of symbols in this song with our pedal mark in DC al fine. Remember, we're in 4/4 time. Our top number tells us how many beats are in a measure. The bottom number tells us what type of note equals 1 beat. That bottom 4 stands for a quarter note or walk notes. Remember, there needs to be at least 4 walk notes in every measure or something that is equal to that. My goodness, we know so much music terminology up to this point. We're going to keep reviewing it every song because the more we say it, the more comfortable it will become. So don't worry if you don't have every single one of these terms yet. So I promise you will. Let's go ahead and look at measure number 1 now. So we got to remember our pedal mark we just talked about. But we start off with 2 C's, and then we get what they call in the Meyrin Cole book these note clusters, because the notes are going to be played together. So right here we have C and D, and in measure 2 we have C, D, and E. Okay, so we start with that pedal down. And let's say the notes out loud as we play them. And we're actually not really going to worry too much about the timing and the rhythms just yet. We're just going to get comfortable with our hands and where they are on the piano. Now, this last note I circled is a G at the very end, okay? All right, so I've got my pedal held down, and we're just going to say and play the notes. See if you can keep up with me here. So I got a C, C, and then we'll play C and D together, and then C, D, E, C, D, E, and what's next? A G. Very good. And this kind of sounds like a bell sound. That's probably why I call this ring those bells. Okay, now let's try it with a steady beat in measures 1 and 2. So hold down your pedal. And you can also practice releasing it at the end of measure 2 if you would like. Here we go. 1, 2. Here we go. Play C, C, C and D, C and D, C and D, now C, D, E, C, D, E, C, D, E, and then our G for 2, and then release that pedal for practice. Great work. Now on the second line, it looks like we get the same exact thing as the first line, except we end with a C instead of a G. So let's go ahead and practice that same thing at a steady beat. Here we go. Hands ready. 1, 2. Here we go. Pedal down. C, C, then C and D, C and D, then our C, D, E, C, D, E, and then a middle C for 2, and off. We can release that pedal. Great work. So I want you to notice on lines 3 and 4, we do not have our pedal mark. But remember, let's keep talking about that DC al fine in line number 4. We don't want to forget about that. Okay. And now what we're going to do is look at the notes in measures 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we have G, F, E, C, all walk notes. And then it repeats that again, G, F, E, C. What note's getting skipped? That's right, it's a D. A D is getting skipped in both of these measures. So we're working down our keyboards, G, F, E, C. We're skipping over that D key. But not anymore. When we get to measures 7 and 8, we play a D, followed by an F, and then another D and an F. Let's clap the third line together. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to say the notes out loud as we clap the rhythms. This is a really good way to practice making sure we've got our rhythms and we know what notes we need to ID. So we're going to clap the third line and say the notes out loud. 1, 2. Here we go. Say G, F, E, C. Again, G, F, E, C, and D for 2, F for 2. Again, D for 2, and F for 2, and off. Fantastic job. And let's get our hands on the piano and try line number 3 at a steady beat. Here we go. 1, 2. Here we go. Play G, F, E, C, and again G, F, C, measure 7, D for 2, and F for 2, measure 8, D for 2, and F for 2, and off. Great work. Moving to the last line, we have that same rhythm group, G, F, E, C, G, F, E, C, but we get a little change at the end, okay? We have a D for 2, E for 2, C for 2. Let's play those notes in measures 11 and 12 just to make sure we know it and say it out loud. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, play a D. Okay, and 1, 2, 3, play an E. And 1, 2, 3, play a C. Remember, that's a whole note worth 4 beats. Now remember, students, when we finish this line, we have to go back to the beginning of the song, and we will do that in our full performance, and then we stop once we get past measure 4. Okay, let's try the last line at a steady beat. 1, 2, here we go. Play G, F, E, C. Again, G, F, E, C. Measure 11, D for 2, E for 2, and C. Hold it. 2, 3, 4, and off. Fantastic job. And now let's go into our first full performance of Ring Those Bells. And don't forget about our brand new DC Alfine. I'll leave a little star down there so we don't forget about it. Okay, pedals ready. We can go ahead and press them down as we get ready to play the first line. 1, 2, here we go. Play C, C, and C and D, C and D, C, D, E, C, D, E, and our G for 2. Release that pedal. Second line, C, C, C and D, C and D, C, D, E, C, D, E, and our C for 2, and G, F, E, C, measure 6, G, F, E, C, measure 7, D for 2, and F for 2, measure 8, D for 2, and F for 2, last line, G, F, E, C, measure 10, G, F, E, C, measure 11, D for 2, and E for 2, and C, 2, 3, 4. The beginning, C, C, C and D, C and D, C and D, measure 2, C, D, E, C, D, E, and a G for 2. Second line, C, 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 D, C, D, measure 4, C, D, E, C, D, E, and a C for 2, and off. Great work on completing Ring Those Bells, and I will see you on the next song.